McGillicuddy and Murderer's Pawn Shop, Season 4, Episode 11. They only arrive in the dark. October 20th, 1921. Continued. Diary, I was flummoxed. I was miserable. I couldn't believe our luck. Ariana might slaughter us all, with supernatural powers any minute. If she didn't, we would be shot by a gun that turned us into night enthusiasts instantly. It shouldn't be possible. I pressed my hands against my nose and mouth. That kind of magic shouldn't be possible. It was unheard of, outrageous, limitless. My mind spun. How had they accomplished it? It was terrifying. Since I was still in the Whiskelet world, I thought about marching back to the council chamber of the Whiskelets to see if I could catch Ariana. Maybe I would jump out in front of the Whiskelets and kidnap her before their very eyes. It had sounded, however, like for this final request, Ariana would summon the Whiskelets into our world. They would leave their cave and meet with her somewhere in 1921. Which was where I needed to be. I had to find a way to warn my fellow magic unusuals about the gun, to keep them from being turned into night enthusiasts, like Noble. Panic rose into my throat. What if they had gotten to some of the others already? What if Octavia, or Scotland, or... I tried not to think about it. How was I still standing here? Because Rasta could track my blood. I couldn't go straight to the haunted house to warn them, of course, but I needed to try as many other things as I could think of. I drew another eye symbol that would take me back to 1921. I appeared in my world a second later, fully aware that the night enthusiasts might pop to life around me any second. I pressed my fingers to my lips and wondered what to do next. I could go back to Raster's room at the Goresby Hotel, fight him tooth and nail for that vial of my blood. Raster would be a fool if he was still in the same place after I'd come there once and stolen his magic. But I was tired of hoping that things turned out all right while I winced with my eyes shut. I teleported straight to the Goresby Hotel, right into Raster's room, to see if I could steal my blood back after all. It was empty, of course. Cleaned out. On the wall, someone, probably Raster, had drawn a man sticking his tongue out. Really? There was no need to be that cheeky. From there, I wasn't sure where to go next. I popped from one location to the next so quickly I made my head spin. I hoped Raster was keeping track of my locations on a sheet of paper and that I had just made him run out of room. I went from place to place, of course, to see if I could spot a magic unusual. I went to all the places we'd discussed going to find Ariana. The Night Enthusiast Cave, the pawn shop, all sorts of restaurants and tea rooms, all shut down for the night, of course, but not shut off to magic unusuals. I didn't run into anyone. Well, I did run into a small man with a curled mustache. He was sitting outside one of the shops, having a cup of coffee. An owner, perhaps. When he saw me wander into view, his eyes goggled. "Aren't you a murderer?" he gasped. "Oh, for heaven's sake," was all I said. I stepped into the alley and vanished. Melinda the witch had struck again. Maybe one of these days I will actually get around to clearing my name. Or maybe I will become a night enthusiast against my will, and continue my murder spree, and make it a reality. Melinda Maudie Merkel. Murderess. Can you imagine me murdering someone? I mean, can you imagine? But it was one gunshot away. One trip, one mistake, one poor decision. It could happen tonight. Tonight, I might lose part of my humanity and never get it back. In some of the places I teleported to, I left scribbled notes. Sometimes on sheets of paper that I stuck to the wall, sometimes on the walls themselves. In huge letters I wrote, with a pencil from my pocket, The night enthusiasts have a gun that can remove your soul. Get out I signed them all. Merkel. The notes were necessary, of course, and hopefully some of them would work. But I had to admit, staring at them, they were quite ominous. The pale penciled letters were skeletal and ghostly. I was getting rather good at the ominous clue-leaving business. Maybe someday I would rival whoever was leaving those damned wooden signs about the bodies. I went everywhere I could think of in 1921 diary. I never stayed for more than a few minutes. Perhaps Raster had seen what I was up to and didn't care to follow me at the moment, because no night enthusiasts came after me. Finally, I decided to just sit down and think. I shoved my fingers into my hair and moaned a little, and I thought about what to do next. I was obsessed with doing, suddenly. I could hardly stop. I ran my mind through all of the possible dangers. Noble was now a night enthusiast. No doubt he would have told the night enthusiasts about the haunted house. Noble, however, had only been there briefly, and he'd only seen the inside. He didn't know what year, what country, what city. They would still have a very hard time finding us on his insight alone. Thank God, Noble had given me the rest of his magic jelly, or he could have drawn a symbol and taken them all straight there. But he couldn't now. The night enthusiasts now knew where our return symbol was, of course. Noble had been to the ruined castle with me. If he had any sense, he would take Renfield and the gun to that spot. That way, when the Magic Unusuals arrived to head back to the haunted house, they could be shot. Of course, there was only one gun. That limited the number of people who could be shot, especially if they were quick. And Noble and Renfield could not use the return symbol. Night enthusiasts were barred from using it. They couldn't get into the haunted house that way. Of course, Ariana had magic jelly. I knew that now. As soon as she and Noble joined forces, he could use the magic jelly from her to draw an eye symbol and get back to the house because he had been there. In other words, it all came down to Ariana again. Not only did we have to find her, to keep her from making a deal with the Whiskelets, we had to find her to keep her away from Noble James. If all our magic unusuals were simply waiting in the haunted house right now, I would have risked going back. I would have brought Raster down on our heads while we escaped quickly to a new location. No one was home, however. We were scattered like sheep. I couldn't take away the only safe haven they had. I had to hope we caught Ariana, with her magic jelly in her pocket, before anything happened. I decided to go straight to the return symbol in Ireland. If Renfield had any brains, he and his gun would stand right in front of it. He'd shoot anyone who tried to get close. I teleported there in an instant, into the dark, dewy chill. And to my shock, no one was there. I stood up on a ruined stone and looked around. I waited for a gunshot, for a flick of green to rush towards me. Noble and Renfield weren't hiding in the ruins. They weren't around. I spun, my hand to my mouth. I frowned at the symbol. Why weren't they here? Was Noble still struggling with guilt? Were they this stupid? Or did they know something I didn't know? I paced for another 4 or 5 minutes. No magic unusuals came to this spot. I gazed longingly at the return symbol, wishing for a home and hot soup and a bubble bath. I hoped all of them were home somehow, safe from Raster, safe from Renfield and that horrible gun. There was one more place I hadn't tried, so I decided to go there now. First, I left a note, of course, pinched into the bricks beside the return symbol. The night enthusiasts have a gun that can remove your soul. Stay home. And then I drew one more symbol, one that took me straight to the secret basement of McGillicuddy and Murder's pawn shop. Vaguely, I hoped to run into Noble and abduct him somehow, but the secret basement appeared to be empty. They'd knocked some furniture over and taken a lot of the beautiful things, but it seemed empty for now. Oh, diary, what to do next? I sat down on a velvet chair and nibbled at my fingernails. Of course, I reeled suddenly with an idea. I had to keep Ariana from making her final deal with the Whiskelets. If she did decide to use their help to kill all of the magic unusuals, then we were lost. I had to stop that deal from going through. I couldn't find Ariana. Time was running out. What I could do, however, was summon the Whiskelets myself. If they were talking to me, they couldn't talk to her. I didn't know what I would tell them to keep them in one spot, but it would buy time for all the magic unusuals who were out searching for her. I decided I would summon the Whiskelets. I would talk their ears off. I would grant more time to Octavia and Scotland and everyone else trying to capture Ariana and take her back to the haunted house. Because I wasn't sure where else to go, I stepped into my old bedroom and shut the door. It was a small space, and I turned off all of the blue lamps. I had to summon them in the dark, after all. They only arrive in the dark. I filled my lungs with air and wondered if this was how I died. Finally, after all these weeks of far too much adventure, maybe this was how Melinda Maudie Merkel met her end. I shut my eyes so I would forget how disturbingly dark it was in this small space. I stamped my foot and chanted, "Death to all mice! Death to all mice! Death to all mice!" I felt a whisper in the room. My clothes ruffled, as if in a wind. There were no sounds, no change in smell, no sense of otherness in the room. When I opened my eyes, however, there they were, all 12 of them. They stared at me with their glinting black eyes, their cloaks casting a kind of green haze in the air. They were a different kind of dark than the darkness of my room. "You summoned us," the one closest to me said. "Yes," I said, "my name is Melinda Maudie Merkel, and—" "We know who you are," one of the Whiskelets interrupted me. "How could we not know? You are the one who summoned us the first time, the one who gave us wrath, who took him away from us. You're the human girl we smelled in our world, the one who barely escaped." Yes," I said, "that is me, Melinda Maudie Merkel." Honestly, diary, I was saying anything that popped into my head to stall for time. Next, I would start reciting The Walrus and the Carpenter. "What did you summon us for? Yes, our time is very precious. Surely you don't want to make a deal with us. I am so tired of human deals. You think you know what we want, but your paltry minds cannot understand." "Let me try, at least," I said. "Very well." I took a deep breath. I couldn't stall forever. Someday I was going to have to tell them my reasoning for summoning them. I hoped that was 50 minutes from now. You wouldn't mind, diary, would you? Listening to me make stuff up for 40 minutes straight? "I know that Ariana wants to make a deal with you," I said. "But, my deal is better. And you can't do both deals at the same time. You would have to agree to go with only mine." They laughed softly, their voices like feathers ruffling. "Why should we agree to that?" "Because my deal cancels out her deal," I said. "My deal doesn't make sense if you've already helped her kill us." Oh, this was stupid. The Whiskelets wanted everybody dead. I could practically feel their glee at the idea of pitting us against each other simultaneously. So before you say yes to Ariana, you have to hear my deal." I had no idea what deal I was about to make to them. Unfortunately, I didn't have to, because the Whiskelets said, "We have already made our deal with Ariana." My ears buzzed with the words. My mind went over them 2 or 3 times before I said, "You what?" "We already made our deal with Ariana." "You—" I decided they were saying this to torture me, to be mean, to make me panic. There was no way Ariana had made her deal with them yet. There was no way Ariana would make that deal at all. She wasn't a murderer. She wasn't. Not like that. She was a rotten old apple. But she wasn't the devil. She wasn't that cruel. Then I stammered, "You mean you made a deal with Ariana to help her kill all of the magic unusuals? Anyone who isn't a night enthusiast?" "In a manner of speaking." And it's official. It has gone through." "Do you really mean that?" The Whisklets were enjoying my misery. "Oh, yes. We struck our deal an hour ago. We gave her so much magic. Magic beyond her wildest dreams. She's all set now to do what she planned." My heart thudded. I wanted to get away, to get out. I wanted to go somewhere where their eyes weren't staring at me. My mouth was dry with terror, but I needed to know more about what Ariana had promised them, and what they had promised her. "Then I suppose you're going to kill me right now," I said, "because that's what she hired you for, to kill everyone like me." "We could kill you, Melinda Maudie Merkel," a Whisklet said, "but we believe you'll cause a lot more suffering before you are dead. We would like to keep you alive, so you can continue with wars and fights and struggles." "Besides," a Whisklet said, "our deal wasn't to kill you." It wasn't. "No, we made a strange compromise for Ariana. In the end, we think this plan will fulfill our mission just as well, if not better, even if it does leave all the magic unusuals alive for now." My brain chattered along, frantic, wondering what they were talking about. They weren't going to kill us. What had Ariana asked for, then? Of course, at that moment, I realized it in full. I stared at the Whisklets, cold. I was angry to the end of my boots. "Get out," I said. "What?" the Whisklets hissed. "I said get out. Get out of my bedroom. Get out of my world. Take your ugly, grubby stupidity out of my existence." The Whisklets started to object. "You can't!" I growled at them so fiercely they took a step back. I picked up a bar of soap from my bedside table and chucked it at them. "Get out! Get your stupid Berg beaks out of here!" Wincing and clearly offended, the Whisklets vanished, no doubt returning to their cave. I sat down on my bed and dug my fingers into my hair. Ariana had known all along what she'd wanted to do. It was brilliant. I should have seen it coming, because it was something she was capable of. Murdering us all. I don't think she would have been capable of that. But turning every magic unusual into a night enthusiast against their will? It was brilliant. It was a partial death to all mice. We, the mice, were going to have our souls cut in half, one by one, but keep on living. Now, working for the night enthusiasts, still alive, but not ourselves. Now working for power and ruin. Ariana had gotten Whisklet magic to make that gun. For all I knew, she had made 50 night enthusiasts by now, or had mixed magic into the rain. She was going to turn every magic unusual into a night enthusiast. And once we returned, there would be no going back. We hope you've enjoyed Season 4, Episode 11, They Only Arrive in the Dark, of McGillicuddy and Murder's Pawn Shop. McGillicuddy and Murder's Pawn Shop is written and performed by Minerva Sweeney Wren. All rights reserved. Please subscribe, share it with your friends, and visit minervasweeneywren.com for more. The most impactful way to support McGillicuddy and Murder's Pawn Shop is to simply follow Minerva Sweeney Wren at Meg Macaulay Inc. on Instagram and Twitter. Please consider giving $1 a month at patreon.com/SweeneyWren to unlock the upcoming mystery, The Dark and Decrepit Planet of Spin, as well as new podcasts, including the Good Imaginations podcast and an interactive murder mystery puzzle game, A Very Deadly Evening. All links are in the description of this episode. McGillicuddy and Murder's Pawn Shop Season 4 will conclude in 2 weeks with episode 12. All the mice are dead.